When a broke dad saves a girl from a crash, he never expected this shocking truth about her. It happened in a flash. One moment, Jake was pushing his old, rusty shopping cart down a cracked sidewalk on the edge of town, the distant sound of children playing filling the air. The next, everything exploded into chaos. A shrill scream pierced the warm summer afternoon, cutting through the noise like a knife. A car swerved, tires screeching, smoke rising as it spiraled out of control. In that instant, Jake's heart raced. This was no ordinary day. He barely had time to think. His instincts kicked in like a well-oiled machine. Without a second thought, he threw his cart aside and sprinted toward the speeding vehicle. He could see her, the girl trapped inside, her wide blue eyes filled with terror. The sight twisted something deep in his chest, igniting a fear he'd never known before, a tight knot that constricted with every desperate step. Adrenaline coursed through him as the world around him faded. It was just him and that car until it wasn't. The car slammed into the lamppost. Metal crunched. Glass shattered. Time stretched. Jake lunged forward, throwing himself against the mangled door. He fought against the weight of the metal, his heartbeat thudding violently in his ears. The girl's screams rang out, haunting and raw, sending chills down his spine. She was only 17. How could this happen? Gritting his teeth, he ripped the door free, the world around him spinning out of control. With shaky hands, he pulled her from the wreckage just as the smell of gasoline began to rise, a thick, nauseating cloud hovering heavy. She was trembling, and Jake felt the warmth of her small frame against his chest. "It's okay. You're safe now," he shouted, but doubt gnawed at him. Was she really? His world tilted as sirens wailed in the distance, their echo drawing nearer. But there was something in her gaze, a flicker of something he couldn't place. As the paramedics rushed in, one of them exchanged a puzzled glance with Jake. Why did the girl's eyes seem so familiar? He shook his head, brushing the uncertainty aside. "This wasn't the time. Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." As the medics wheeled her away, she turned back, eyes locking onto Jake's. "Thank you." She gasped, but something shifted. Her expression darkened, confusion and fear battling within the depth of those blue eyes. A shadow crossed her face, almost like she was wrestling with a memory. What was she hiding? Jake's heart sank, the question swirled in his mind, but he couldn't get answers now. He had saved her life, but what burden was he dragging into the light? The echoes of that crash would haunt him, and in the chaos of flashing lights and voices, he caught a detail that made his skin crawl. A family photograph slipped from her hand, faintly crinkled but unmistakable. And the woman in that picture had the same haunting blue eyes. Jake grasped that photo, fingers trembling as he stared at it, questions bubbling to the surface. Who was she really? What did he stumble into? The weight of a shocking truth hung thick in the air, waiting to spill. The answers loomed, just out of reach, but one thing was certain: this wasn't over. Jake stood frozen, the photograph burning a hole in his palm. He could feel the world around him, the whir of sirens and the murmurs of shocked onlookers, fading away as he stared at the mysterious image. The woman in the photograph was remarkably striking, with the same piercing blue eyes as the girl he had just saved. A hollow ache in his stomach told him this was more than a coincidence. Suddenly, his feet were moving before he realized it. He hastened toward the crowd that gathered by the wreck of the car, the adrenaline still humming in his veins. People were pointing, whispering, their expressions a mix of shock and sympathy. What happened? Is she okay? Did anyone see the driver? Excuse me. Jake shouted, scrambling to the front, where 2 officers were cordoning off the scene with black tape. I just saved her. The girl inside. His voice trembled, the weight of urgency pressing hard against his chest. One officer raised an eyebrow but didn't budge. You need to step back, sir. We are managing the situation here. But I found something. Jake thrust the photograph forward, desperate. This belongs to her. I don't know what it means, but it's important. The officer's gaze shifted to the photo, and for a brief moment, Jake saw a flicker of recognition. Just as quickly, the officer turned his attention back to the wreckage, blocking Jake from entering the perimeter. Stay back until the paramedics are finished. Frustrated, Jake stepped away, fighting the knot forming in his throat. The girl, he needed to know she was alright. As the medics walked dutifully, he caught a glimpse of her being loaded onto a stretcher, pale and brittle like a porcelain doll, her body motionless. Hey! Is she going to be okay? Jake yelled out to a passing medic, heart pounding, but the medics simply shook their head, words lost in the chaos. With every step they took away from him, his heart sank deeper. Suddenly, a shadow fell over the scene. A sleek black car pulled up, tinted windows hiding the occupant inside. Jake's stomach twisted, an instinctive feeling of dread creeping over him. What kind of person drove a car like that? What did they want here? As the door swung open, a sharply dressed man stepped out. There was something unnerving about the way he scanned the area, an icy confidence radiating from him. The crowd parted as he approached the wreckage, a look of concern masking the glint of something more sinister in his eyes. Nick! The man called, voice smooth yet commanding. Where is she? Jake felt a surge of anger wash over him. Who was this guy? A relative. He pushed through the crowd, his fist curling at his sides, driven by a need to protect the girl. Who are you? He demanded, stepping in front of the man. What do you want with her? The man narrowed his gaze, assessing Jake like a predator would its prey. That girl is part of a family you don't understand, and I advise you to step aside. Jake's pulse drummed in his ears. His instinct told him to stand firm, but fear coiled around his throat. There was something chilling about the way the man spoke, a sense of danger dancing in the air. Was he a threat? Before Jake could muster a response, chaos erupted as the medics rushed past him, another stretcher making its way to the sleek car, creating confusion that seemed to blur the lines of reality. What are they doing? Jake screamed, but nobody seemed to hear him over the din.as the man sneered. Jake felt a twist of fate, the weight of the photograph in his pocket, the girl's terrified face flashing through his mind. He was entangled in something much larger than himself, unraveling quickly. The answers were still just beyond his reach, dangling provocatively like a carrot on a stick, and as the man smiled dangerously, Jake understood that this was just the beginning. He had to uncover the truth before it was too late. The murmur of the crowd faded and Jake's heartbeat thudded louder in his ears. The man in front of him, his sharp suit and cold demeanor radiating authority, loomed like a shadow over the wreckage. Every instinct in Jake screamed for him to fight back, to expose whatever scheme lurked beneath this stranger's calm facade. Get out of my way! Jake shouted, adrenaline surging as he pushed forward. He had to protect the girl. She couldn't go with this man. Just as Jake took another step, an officer caught his arm. Sir, I said step back. The officer's grip felt like iron, a reminder that everyone else was somehow still rooted in this twisted version of reality, but Jake couldn't afford to listen. That girl was in trouble. You can't let him take her. He jerked his arm free, panic tightening his throat as he watched the medics gingerly handle the stretcher. The man's voice cut through the chaos, smooth yet filled with an underlying threat. You have no idea what you're dealing with, kid. Maybe you should focus on your own safety. There was an edge there, a warning that sent another shiver down Jake's spine. Jake shot him a defiant glare, then turned back to the medic crew. Please, just tell me she is going to be okay. The paramedic looked up briefly, sympathy etched across her weary face. "We are doing everything we can. Just stay calm, we've got this." Calm? How could he stay calm when the girl's life hung in the balance? The chaos around him felt like a whirlwind, emotions swirling like storm clouds. Then suddenly, the sharp-dressed man snapped his fingers, drawing Jake's gaze back. "Move aside," he ordered the officers, and to Jake's horror, they complied. There was an unsettling power in the way he commanded them, an unseen grip that made his stomach churn. "Hey!" Jake lunged forward, but the man simply stepped into the clearing, his eyes locking onto the girl on the stretcher. In that moment, time seemed to slow, and a panic boiled inside Jake, bubbling over into desperate action. He sprinted toward the stretcher, ready to fight if necessary, but as he reached out, 2 paramedics blocked his path. "You can't." But it was too late. The man was already at the stretcher, hovering over the girl like a looming dark cloud, a cruel shadow eclipsing her fragile form. "Let her go," Jake yelled, his voice tremulous and raw. He could barely recognize himself anymore. This wasn't the same guy who'd just pulled someone from a wreck. Could he really fight for someone he hardly knew? "Stand down, kid. This is not your decision." The man's tone dripped with disdain. It was as chilling as the autumn wind, and with every word, Jake felt his defenses crumble, the fear crawling back up his throat. Before he could react, the man leaned closer to the girl, whispering something too soft for Jake to hear. Her eyes fluttered open for a brief moment, and in them, Jake caught a spark of recognition, of yearning. She saw someone she knew. But who? Panic gripped Jake. Could it be? No. What if this man was connected to the photograph? Suddenly, his throat tightened as a new dread settled in. What if he was somehow part of whatever dark web the girl found herself entangled in? His pulse raced. "You can't take her. I won't let you." Jake shouted, every ounce of his being aligned towards stopping the man. As if sensing the impending confrontation, the man straightened, a menacing smile spreading across his face. "You'll regret this, but you'll find out soon enough. Things aren't always what they seem." Time slipped away, the world narrowing to just him and the man, each vying for control as darkness enveloped the scene. Who was this stranger? What connection did he have to the girl? And more hauntingly, what would happen if they succeeded in whisking her away from him? The tension crackled in the air like electricity, propelling Jake forward into an uncertain future. He needed answers. He had to act. As the paramedics finished securing the girl, moving her toward that imposing black car, Jake felt a chill pierce through him. He had to unravel this mystery before it consumed him, before it was too late. And with each passing moment, the truth was slipping further from his grasp. Jake's heart raced as he pressed through the throng of onlookers, their gasps and murmurs echoing in his ears like a distant storm. This wasn't just some regular accident, this was a trap, a snare set by that man in the suit, and he was determined not to let the girl fall into his clutches. He shoved past the last barricade of officers, desperation fueling his strength. The world around him grew blurrier. All that mattered was the girl, the way her eyes flickered and her breathing faltered as she lay motionless on that stretcher. "Stop!" he yelled, his voice hoarse and raw. The paramedics, caught off guard, hesitated just long enough for Jake to slip through. He reached the stretcher, his hands trembling with urgency. "What did you say to her?" Jake spat at the man, square in the face, refusing to back down. The stranger chuckled, a dark, hollow sound. "Oh, just a little encouragement. A reminder that she belongs where she is meant to be." He dodged the question, his eyes glimmering with an unsettling mix of amusement and arrogance. "Enough!" an officer shouted, trying to regain control amid the chaos. Jake's eyes darted between the man and the girl, realization crashing over him like a tsunami. She knew him, and whatever bond they shared was deeper than he understood. As the medics shifted, the black car loomed closer, its tinted windows reflecting the chaos around it like a mirror to a dark reality. If she was taken into that vehicle, Jake knew he might never see her again. Please. He pleaded, desperation clawing at his throat. She's just a kid. You can't do this. The man's smile faded, his expression turning cold and calculating. You really have no idea what is at stake here, do you? You have no power to stop me. Then, like a marionette cut loose, the world tilted off its axis. A sudden noise shattered the air, a screech of tires, followed by a cacophony of chaos. In the distance, another crash resonated. Jake's instincts kicked in once more. Stay back. He backed at the bystanders, instinctively positioning himself between the girl and the oncoming horror. But the stranger hadn't moved. Instead, he studied Jake with a hint of admiration mixed with a condescending disdain. You're brave, but bravery is not the same as wisdom. That was when it happened. A shadow erupted from behind the black car. Without warning, a figure in a dark hood lunged toward them. Panic shot through the crowd, screams erupting into the air like fireworks. Jake's heart raced. Had someone sent reinforcements for the girl's abduction? Instinctively, he reached for the girl, but everything around him exploded into chaos. The unseen figure barreled through the crowd, heading straight for the man in the suit. Jake's breath caught in his throat. Jake, move! A voice shouted. It was the medic from before, waving frantically as if to ground him in the moment. But it was too late. The collision of forces sent the hooded figure tumbling towards them, grappling with the man in the sharp suit. Everything bled together: confusion, raw instinct, and the frantic screams of the crowd. Help her, the medic shouted, urgency thick in the air. Jake hesitated, his instinct screaming to assist the girl, but the man's cold demeanor, now filled with fury, promised that everything was on the line. This wasn't just a random accident anymore. What if this was part of a bigger game? With two lives hanging in the balance, who would be left standing when the dust settled? As the fight between the two men raged on, Jake realized he was about to be caught in the crossfire of a dark game, one far more dangerous than he imagined. What are you waiting for? The medic called, pulling him back. Do something. A sudden revelation hit him. What if the truth he was seeking was lying right there, tangled up in chaos? He took a deep breath, the icy wind stinging his senses. It was now or never. He had to dive into the fray and untangle the web before it swallowed them whole. And just as he plunged toward the confrontation, he felt time freeze, a haunting question echoing in the back of his mind. Was he prepared to face whatever secrets were about to unfold, or would he lose everything trying to protect a girl he barely knew? Jake barreled forward, adrenaline driving him like a freight train. He wasn't just diving headfirst into chaos, he was willingly stepping into the unknown with only one thought: save her. The fracas intensified as the hooded figure tackled the man in the suit to the ground. A flurry of fists and limbs erupted, the black asphalt transforming into a war zone. Screams spiraled in the air, and the crowd pressed closer, wrestling with fear and curiosity. Get the girl. The medic's voice pierced through the tumult, but Jake's gaze was locked on the scuffle. There was something electric about the way the hooded figure fought, swift, precise, a dance of fury and desperation. The man in the suit fought back, his demeanor cold and calculated as he fended off attacks like they were nothing. All while wild-eyed and panicked, the paramedics were attempting to secure the girl on the stretcher, trying to shield her from the madness around them. Jake squeezed past bodies, his hands clammy with sweat as he reached the stretcher. Her eyes fluttered open for a fraction of a second, enough to send a jolt through him. Hang in there, he urged, taking her hand. I'm not letting them take you. The moment tugged at the edges of his rationality. What was it about this girl? Why was he risking everything? But there was no time to ponder. As a loud crash reverberated against the chaos metal on metal, Jake's heart leapt into his throat. Jake, now! The medic shouted again, the urgency escalating. With sweat trickling down his forehead, He took a quick glance at the fight, the hooded figure now delivering punishing blows to the man in the suit. But that chilling laugh echoed again, cutting through the screams. "You think you can save her?" The man in the suit spat, warning laced in his tone. "You have no idea what you're meddling in." Jake hesitated, the words clawing at his mind. He had no idea. But wouldn't that always be the case? Are those who fight never fully aware of the stakes? The crowd was shifting, buzzing with whispers and fear, a ripple of confusion as they swirled like leaves caught in a storm. The press of bodies felt claustrophobic, a sea of panic. Before he could make sense of it, an officer surged towards him, shouting orders. Jake's jaw tightened. He wasn't going to lose focus now. He had to be the one to act. In that moment, he made a decision. He turned back toward the girl, determined to protect her. "We need to get her out of here, now." As Jake bent over her, he felt a faint squeeze of her hand. It gave him hope. But chaos erupted again as a shout rang out. From behind, the hooded figure was flung back, crashing into a packed car. The impact sent echoes through the crowd, and a collective gasp filled the air. "Jake!" The medic's voice was a lifeline. "We need to move her now." But just as Jake began lifting the stretcher, the man in the suit released himself from the grip of chaos. His expression had morphed into something dark and twisted, calculating, and he pointed straight at Jake. "It doesn't end like this," he hissed, voice dripping with menace, and suddenly, all tension froze. Jake could feel every heartbeat thunder in his ears. The weight of danger hung thick in the air as their eyes locked, and in that moment, despair flooded him. Then came a sound that would forever haunt him. A loud click, the metallic sound of a weapon being cocked. His heart dropped. "Let her go, and you just might live to see another day." The crowd gasped again, but one thing was painfully clear, the stakes had just risen. Jake had to act fast. But before he could process where to move, a thunderous crash erupted in the distance, sending shockwaves through the crowd. "What now?" was the thought that echoed in his mind, swirling with uncertainty and dread. He had already crossed into the dark unknown, but this. It was a whole new level of danger. Could he really save her after all? Whatever the truth was, it was approaching fast, and he had to decide: dive deeper or turn back. What choice would he make in this life and death game? Jake's chest tightened as he held the stretcher. The girl's faint presence felt like a fragile thread slipping through his fingers. The man in the suit had a gun. It was a harsh reality that sent tremors through him. He was outmatched and dangerously exposed. The world around him blurred, the sirens wailing in the distance became muffled, and the chaotic energy of the crowd faded to a dull roar. "Jake!" The medic's voice broke through the fog. "Now! Move!" Panic surged. He had to do something, and fast. His heart raced, echoing in time with the growing tension in the air. He glanced back at the hooded figure, who was struggling to get up. But the suit man wasn't watching them anymore. His focus was solely on Jake and the girl at his feet. "Make a choice, kid." The medic backed, urgency weaving through her words like a live wire. But Jake felt frozen. Swallowing hard, he forced himself to meet the man in the suit's unyielding gaze. There was an unsettling power there, a promise of violence lurking beneath the surface. "Let her go." Jake managed, despite the panic tightening around his throat like a vice. "I don't know who you are or what you want, but you need to step back." For a heartbeat, silence wrapped around them, tension hanging in the air like a heavy fog. The man in the suit was considering him, a predator evaluating its prey. "You think you can bluff your way out of this?" He sneered, the laughter laced with disdain. Then came another crash from the direction of the chaos, the sound of a silver sedan barreling into the throng, spinning out of control. People scattered, screams erupting like gunfire. In an instant, everyone's attention was torn away, and Jake's instincts kicked in. "Get the stretcher." He yelled to the medic, his decision made. There was no turning back now. With a fierce determination, he lifted the stretcher, muscles straining, and took a step back. Jake! The medic shouted, her face white with shock, but he was already moving. Adrenaline surged through his veins as he maneuvered the stretcher towards the edge of the chaos. But the man in the suit wasn't so easily deterred. He pivoted, reaiming his weapon. Stop now, or I swear, he threatened, voice low and filled with venom. A second later, a surge of bodies moved between Jake and the threat. The hooded figure leapt back into the fray, driving fists into the man in the suit with ferocity. The gunshot rang out a deafening crack that scattered the crowd into a frenzy. Time slowed. Jake felt every hair stand on end as the horror unfolded before him. Stay down. The medic shouted, pushing the girl into a protective position on the ground, shielding her. Jake's heart raced as he caught sight of the man in the suit sprawled on the ground, the hooded figure above him, fist poised to strike but glancing back at Jake. Move. Jake forced himself from his frozen state and raced towards the girl, adrenaline heightening every sense. He wasn't just fighting for her now, it felt like the world was crashing, and he needed to save what he could. Come on. He grunted, helping to lift the girl once more, their eyes meeting in a moment that carried more hope than he'd felt since all this began. But just as they began to move, the ground shook again from the chaos behind them. The familiar chill danced up Jake's spine as he glanced back, dread flooding him. The man in the suit was rising, rage emanating from him in waves as the hooded figure was forced back. In that moment, Jake realized the stakes weren't just about saving a girl. Instead, they were entangled in something far deeper, something that threatened to unveil secrets nobody was ready to face. As they bolted toward the nearest exit, something in the back of Jake's mind whispered that it was all just beginning. What had he stumbled into, and more importantly, would they make it out alive before the darkness swallowed them whole? Jake's heart pounded in his chest, each beat matching the frantic rhythm of his thoughts. The girl felt so light in his arms, yet the weight of the moment almost crushed him. He couldn't afford to look back, he had to focus on getting her to safety. Through that alley. The medic shouted, pointing towards a narrow passageway just ahead. The sounds of pandemonium filled the air, screams and shouts ricocheted off the walls like bullets. Every instinct screamed at him to run. They burrowed into the alley, shadows swallowing them as they escaped the chaos behind. The girl stared slightly, pain etched across her features. Where are we going? She murmured, eyes wide and glistening with fear. Just hold on. We are getting you out, Jake replied, voice steadier than he felt. Every step felt like a leap of faith, and behind him, the chaos continued to swell, a pulsating tide of danger. Jake. The medic gasped, struggling to keep pace. We can't stop. He glanced left, then right. The alley twisted like a maze, dimly lit by flickering streetlights. Jake pushed forward, willing his legs to move faster, his mind racing with desperate questions. What the hell had they walked into? Who was the man in the suit? The hooded figure's earlier battle flashed in his mind. They were outnumbered and outgunned, and he did just become part of something much darker. Head down. The medic backed, and Jake instinctively bent forward, cradling the girl closer to him as they docked beneath a low-hanging awning. Keep going. The medic's tone was insistent, filled with urgency that steadied Jake's nerves. He felt like they were running from shadows, the darkness stretching behind them, eager to consume. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed behind them, heavy and fast. They're coming. The medic spat, her voice trembling. Jake turned his head slightly, just enough to see the figure appear at the alley's entrance. The man in the suit emerged, gun drawn, his expression a blend of determination and rage that sent chills down Jake's spine. Stop! He shouted, but the voice was nothing but a growl, a command wrapped in a promise of violence. Jake felt time stretch, each second torturously long. The alley felt claustrophobic, the walls closing in. We can't outrun him, he whispered urgently, terror clawing at him. I know. The medic responded, biting back panic. But we have to find cover. The medic led them into a small doorway, barely noticeable under the dim light. They slipped inside. Darkness engulfed them. Jake's breath was labored as he pressed his back against the cool wall. The silence was thick, full of the frantic pounding of his heart. He could feel the girl's pulse racing against him, and he closed his eyes for a moment, grounding himself. Do you think he saw us? The medic whispered. I hope not, Jake replied, trying to project more confidence than he felt. A creaking sound broke the stillness, followed by a low voice, filled with malevolence. I know you're in there. Jake's heart lodged in his throat. The way those words dripped with certainty sent ice through his veins. The door rattled slightly, and he exchanged a glance with the medic. They shared a mutual understanding this wasn't over. As if in answer to their silent pact, a hand pushed against the door, sending tremors through the wood. I will find you, the man said, and Jake realized in that moment, escape was no longer an option. The stakes were higher than they'd anticipated, and whatever this man wanted tied them deeper into the web of darkness. He felt the girl's fragile grip loosen slightly, and panic surged. What do we do now? Stay quiet, the medic urged. And wait. But as they held their breath, Jake's mind raced with possibilities. What had they stumbled into? And even more pressing, who would come out alive when the dust settled? With the uncertainty closing in on them, Jake couldn't shake the nagging sensation that the truth was about to unravel in the most unexpected, shocking way. The creaking stopped, yet the tension thickened like fog around them. Jake's senses heightened, every sound magnified, the faint rasp of his breath, the comforting yet ominous thump of the girl's heart against his chest. There was a chance he was losing her, and the thought gripped him like a vice. Please, just hold on, he whispered, his voice breaking. He could feel the medic's fingers digging into his arm, urging him to stay quiet. They stood frozen in the darkness, sweat trickling down Jake's back, his pulse hammering like a war drum against the oppressive silence. The man outside was relentless. You can't hide forever. I will find you, he taunted softly, each word sliding through the cracks of the door like a knife. What does he want? The medic hissed, barely moving her lips. Whatever it is, it can't be good, Jake replied, the weight of dread pulling in his stomach. He glanced down at the girl, her face pale and eyes fluttering as if she were fighting to stay conscious. Stay with me, he urged, brushing a lock of hair from her forehead. She nodded weakly, but he could see the fear pulling in her gaze. Outside, something shifted, a footfall, then a metallic scraping sound. The man was searching, and time was running out. Jake's mind raced through options. They needed a plan, and fast. Do you have any weapons? Anything? He asked the medic, his heart racing with hope. No, just my medical kit. It won't help us. Her voice trembled, and Jake could see the panic creeping into her eyes. Just then, another sound interrupted the faint growl of an engine. Jake's heart skipped as he realized it was not far away. Cars. Is there a way out? I think there's a back door. She pointed with a shaky hand towards the far end of the narrow space. But we'll need to be quiet. Before he could respond, the door shuddered as the man outside pounded on it, a primal roar echoing in the tight space. I know you're in there. You can't hide, I'll make it worse for you. The girl's eyes widened in terror. Jake felt their safety slipping. Without thinking, he took her hand and whispered, we have to move. Silently, they crept towards the back door, heartbeats synchronizing in frantic rhythm. The medic held the doorknob, glancing back as Jake ensured the girl was steady. Every fiber of his being screamed that they needed to act now. With a determined breath, the medic twisted the knob and pushed the door open just a crack enough to peek outside. An alley stretched before them. The engine roared again, closer this time. Could they make it? Jake's thoughts flipped through countless possibilities, each darker than the last. On 3, he breathed, adrenaline flooding his veins. Jake the medic's voice was a warning. The door groaned under another punch from the man. Now! Jake shouted, and they burst into the alley. But in the next moment, a blinding light flooded behind them. Jake froze, adrenaline spiking as he turned. A figure was sprinting towards them, shadowed by the glow of headlights. Could it be? The man in the suit was right behind them, anger etched in his face, but it was the car that stole his attention, barreling towards them like a thunderstorm, intent on something or someone. Time seemed to slow as Jake's mind raced. Get down! He screamed, shoving the girl and medic aside. The car slammed into the edge of the alley, and the screech of tires cut through the air. Jake braced for impact, adrenaline coursing through him, uncertainty stretching out like an endless chasm. What in the world just happened? As everything came crashing down around him, Jake felt the stakes rise higher than ever. Would they survive this? And who was in that vehicle, friend or foe? Jake. The medic's voice yanked him back to reality, and as he turned, hope battled despair. The man in the suit was closing in. Would answers come with daylight or with dark revelations? A twist of fate was lurking just around the corner, and whatever happened next would change everything they thought they knew. The world spun wildly as Jake's heart raced. The blinding headlights held him captive, a wicked spotlight illuminating the chaos. He instinctively pushed the girl and the medic further into the shadows of the alley, desperate to shield them both from the danger barreling down upon them. Get up! Run! He shouted, but the words barely escaped his lips when the man in the suit lunged forward, anger igniting in his eyes. Don't you dare move! The man growled, fixing his gaze on Jake with a malevolence that twisted the air around them. Just then, the car screeched to a halt, the driver's door flying open. Get in! A voice full of urgency blasted through the chaos. It didn't belong to anyone Jake recognized. His instincts screamed for him to refuse, but the desperation in the medic's eyes made him hesitate. Jake, we need to go! She shouted, clutching the girl, whose strength seemed to be slipping away like sand through an hourglass. The man lunged again, inches from Jake's face. You're not escaping from this. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Jake's mind raced, torn between the threat behind him and the unknown salvation ahead. A split-second decision flickered in his gut. Now! He screamed, urging the medic and the girl towards the car. They stumbled, the medic's hand gripping the car's handle as she flung herself inside, dragging the girl with her. What about you? She shrieked, panic flooding her voice. I'll hold him off. Jake didn't have time to think about what that meant. He turned and faced the man, whose fury was palpable, crackling like a storm ready to explode. Your fight is with me, Jake challenged, trying to keep his voice steady as adrenaline coursed through him. The man smirked, his confidence radiating an unnerving chill. Fool! You really think you can take me on? The words came like poison, dripping with disdain. Just as Jake had prepared himself to charge, he heard a roaring engine rev, and the car jerked forward, slamming in reverse. Jake! The medic's voice echoed like a warning bell, but their chance had come. The car blasted out of the alley, tires screeching, as Jake launched himself towards the fading vehicle. He barely reached for the door handle when a sharp pain shot through his shoulder. He turned to see the man had hurled something, a thin metal rod, piercing Jake's jacket, pinning him momentarily to the wall as the vehicle sped away. No! He roared, a thrill of anger fueling his struggle against the deadly grip of the object. He yanked frantically, feeling the fabric rip before he finally broke free. But the precious moment had passed. The car was already merging into the street, leaving him in a cloud of dust and despair. Jake looked up, the man in the suit grinning with a twisted satisfaction, a predator savoring the moment of his prey's desperation. A sudden realization crashed over Jake. This man wasn't just a random threat, He was haunting the girl for a reason Jake couldn't fathom in this moment of horror. "You'll wish you had stayed out of this," the man sneered, before turning back to the direction from which the car had fled, his eyes narrowing like a hawk zeroing in on a target. Jake staggered, his heart racing, the weight of the girl's fate crashing into him like a tsunami. The medic's scream, the girl's helplessness, it all echoed in his mind as he started to run, fueled by instinct and despair, but he wasn't prepared for what came next. A figure emerging from the shadows, identical to the girl he had just fought to save. Jake stopped short, breath caught in his throat, as the mysterious girl stepped closer, her piercing gaze locking onto his. "Help me," she whispered, but those two words were enough to rattle Jake's resolve. He had already lost one girl tonight. Could he afford to risk everything again? As the man's footsteps resumed behind him, closing the gap, Jake knew he had to make a choice. He felt the stakes ascend yet again, the air thick with uncertainty. Who was this new girl? And could he trust her? He felt the whisper of fate beckoning as he stood on the precipice of a decision that could change everything yet again. Jake stood dazed in the middle of the street, the horrors of the night swirling around him like a dark fog. Deep in his gut was a gnawing ache, a fear that gripped his very soul. He had saved one girl, but now things had twisted into a nightmare. Instead of relief, he was left with confusion and dread. Siren sounds still echoed off the buildings, a haunting reminder of chaos, pain, and the fleeting life he barely managed to clutch to during those frantic moments. But now answers eluded him. Instead, shadows danced before his eyes, and he could hardly take a breath. "Help me," the words of the new girl echoed in his mind, their urgency relentless. As she stepped closer, he saw the same pain in her eyes, the same vulnerability. Yet Jake felt the chasm between them. He wasn't prepared to lose another innocent soul. "Who are you?" he managed, desperation breaking his voice. He needed to know why she had appeared like a ghost. Did she know something about the girl he had just saved? The one being whisked away by a stranger in a suit who seemed to weave darkness as if it were his very cloak. The girl took a step towards him, her hands trembling, as strong emotions flashed across her striking features. I'm her twin. They're coming for us." Together shock buzzed in Jake's ears. Twins. It all made sense now, those eyes, that unspoken connection he felt when he saved the girl. But the weight of her truth bore down on him like a heavy load. He was tangled in something far greater than he could have imagined. "Together," he echoed, panic rising. "What do you mean?" Before she could respond, the man in the suit re-emerged from the shadows, his presence a chilling wave that swept through them. He surveyed the alley, and with a menacing smile, he beckoned toward them. "Come now, little girl. The game is over for you." Jake felt the burn of adrenaline, his instincts kicked into high gear. He wouldn't let this man take her, not again. "Get back," he shouted, stepping in front of the girl protectively. His chest tightened. He wasn't sure if he was brave or just plain reckless. But the man stepped closer, his gaze sharp, unnerving. "You don't understand what you're messing with. The lives of those you try to protect only complicate the truth." "That's where you're wrong," Jake shouted, heart hammering. "They deserve a chance." The man laughed, a dark, hollow sound that echoed in the air. "Chance? You think they have any chance in this world? It's a game of survival, and you've picked the wrong side." At that moment, the world tilted again. The sound of a car engine roared to life in the distance. Clenching his fist, he felt the girl's uncertainty seep into him, but he wouldn't let her see his fear. It fueled his resolve. "You're not taking them away," Jake said firmly, glancing back at the frightened twin. Suddenly, something incredible happened. The alley lights flickered, casting eerie shadows as if signaling something monumental. The girl's eyes caught a glimmer of hope. "We need to go. Now." With a quick glance around, Jake pushed forward, taking the girl's hand, pulling her towards the flickering light ahead. Every cell screamed to run, to escape, to protect. The man was unsteady behind them, slow to react as shadows turned into a frantic rush of movement. Jake wasn't looking back. He had a chance to save both girls, and he needed to seize it. Together, they burst into the street where the car engine still roared. It was a moment of sheer chaos of uncertainty, but they kept moving, a united front against whatever darkness pursued them. Jake threw the girl into the back seat of a nearby vehicle, and she landed with a thud, fear radiating off her like a cold chill. "Drive!" he shouted at the driver, panic surging through him. "Jake, we can't," the medic began, but the girl, her twin, interjected, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We are missing something important. We can't leave, we must confront him." "Are you crazy?" Jake snapped, his heart racing. It felt impossibly weighty. "He'll kill us." "No," she insisted, her intensity cutting through Jake's fear. "My sister is strong. She saved herself once, and we need to finish this." It struck a chord deep within him. Could he embrace the uncertainty, confront the truth head-on? The tension in the air crackled, and the urgency of the moment was undeniable. "Okay," he whispered hoarsely, feeling the pulse of fate shift. "Together, then. But we need to be quicker than him." With the touch of adrenaline coursing through their veins, they rallied. "On three," Jake whispered, their focus sharpening. 1, 2, 3. They burst from the vehicle, heads held high as they faced the darkness with renewed courage. In the distance, they could see the menacing figure of the man in the suit approaching, his cold grin faltering as he understood that this time, they had a chance. "You made a mistake coming back here." He backed, but there was fear in his voice, and that lit a fire inside Jake. Together, they pushed onward, hearts racing, spirits ignited. And as the last threads of night began to unravel, they knew this time they wouldn't just run away, they would take the fight back to the darkness that had pursued them. In an unexpected twist, the truth finally began to spill into their waiting hands. The storm was far from over, but the trio was ready. Together, they would confront the shadows and secrets that entwined their fates, determined to reclaim their lives and face whatever might come next. This was only the beginning. Now, if you don't want to miss what's coming next, you need to subscribe immediately. Don't wait even one more second. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section below with your theories about what is going to happen. And you must instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support.